Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, make me look bad on the job? Well, we'll see about that. What is and is not a black belt? Steal my medication, I make you serially regret it. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Make me look bad on the job? Well, we'll see about that. I worked at a clothing store in a mall for a year and a half. It was not fun, but I was think back to my time there recently, and I forgot this golden gem of ProRevenge. So a new girl had just been hired, as many new people did in that job, and right away you could tell she thought she was hot shit. We're talking acting like a manager, talking how many hours she had, and worst of all, she wouldn't shut up about all the dudes she was banging, and how the money she got from them was the most important part. To put it lightly, she was a cold-hearted bitch who made everyone feel bad about their insignificant lives, as she put it. Here's where things go down. In our store, all the racks were milled steel bars and hooks, so really hard to break and really expensive. They could, however, be bent out of shape if enough heavy coats stay on them for long periods of time. Ms. Hot Shit here, though, it would be a good idea to impress the management by putting all the coats on the same rack using the milled steel bars instead of a circular rack that wouldn't warp. I protested, of course, as I'd been there longer, but she said, "I get paid more than you, so do what I say." She got hired as a key holder of the gate, so she made $1 more than I did per hour. I go along with it, put the heavy winter coats up on the milled steel, and go about my life. Well, 2 weeks later the milled steel is of course warped, and when management saw this they flipped. Cheapo store, any cost was bad to them. Anyway, she blames it on me, and I get written up for it. Now I refuse to sign, so they gave me less hours, which also cut my pay. Because she lied, I was now making 50% less than before, and had a formal written complaint against me. To say I was ticked off wouldn't even start. So I devised a plan, go get back at her. You see, the drywall on the center pillars had sustained water damage for an early melt earlier that year, making them extremely soft. However, they provide some of the largest coverage of shelf space in the entire store, meaning basically a good 20% of shelf space couldn't be used. Now the kicker is Ms. Hot Shit didn't know about this, as she came in a week after it had happened, and to the naked eye you wouldn't think the pillar couldn't be used, as there was banners on it to try and hide the yellowing. I may have suggested what a waste not being able to have product on the pillars was, and how if someone could come up with a nice display it would bring in a lot of customers due to how people could see it from the mall main floor. We were just off the food court. Her eyes lit up. Now here's the thing, I was taking a small break to a nice snowy lake cabin the next day, and the people she had working with her were the manager, or the temps, who were not allowed to handle marketing and logistics. Putting shelves/rack up on the wall due to their cost, and the incident that got me wrote up. Now I knew she wouldn't want the managers to see it because she wanted all the glory from it. She wanted to show to our 3 stores in the mall that her store was the best while the managers weren't around. So she, being with a temp and them not being able to put up shelving, put the heavy winter clothing on milled steel racks attached to the soft drywall pillars. Within a week the drywall on the pillars collapsed and ruined $500 worth of product. Now she tried to shift blame on me, but I was away for the whole week, so it could not have been me, because obviously that can't happen if I'm in the forest hundreds of miles from civilization. So no dice there, and she promptly got charged with the repair, demoted to sales associate, and written up for what they finally realized was not just this, but the one they wanted me to sign. The repair was $2,500 plus the $500 stock that got destroyed when 40 pounds of drywall came crushing down on it. But I wasn't done yet. You see, our manager in our store specifically was pretty chill, and she's still a personal friend to me. She had a group chat so we could talk off hours and keep up to date. Now, as I mentioned before, she wouldn't shut up about all the men she was playing, and how the only thing that mattered was the money, and boy oh boy did she use the group chat to say a lot of this. Sometimes one of these dudes would come around and take her for lunch. Let's just say when she was in the back for a little while finishing something up, that I let them see the text channel if they promised not to let her know I told them. So often they'd go on their lunch date, and after 1 or 2 days she'd be down a man. Finally this boiled over when one of them took her phone, saw how many guys she had been banging for money, and messaged all of them about how much of a lying cheat she was. After 2 months her fountain of man money dried up, and how demoted to a sales associate she didn't have the money to spend on all her lavish nights out or designer clothing. She eventually moved up to another store for more hours and stole money from the till, causing her to get fired. A fitting end to a backstabbing ice queen, I think. I eventually left the job after half a year later to pursue my current job. What is and is not a black belt? Several years ago I worked for the best mediocre company to buy electronics from. I am a simple man, and I care very little for how I dress. The only thing I ask is that I am allowed at least a tiny bit of personal expression. Background: I worked in the mobile/cellular department for 3 years. I had already had a couple years experience at a certain shack full of radios, and was the local cellular guru. I had trained everybody in my department, and was the regular go-to man for a certain squad of geeks when it came to anything that touched a cellular network. Managers came and went, assistant managers came and went. Until Emily. Emily was about my age, young, and came in with a mindset that she was a go-getter and knew all about everything cellular. On several occasions coworkers came to me instead of her for questions. I had to fix a few of her mistakes, and she'd argue with me on processes that I tweaked because they didn't work otherwise. It was at this point that she, a die-hard rules girl, had decided that she hated me, so she began nitpicking my wardrobe. First, it was my boots. I like work boots, they have ankle support, and she had taken away our ability to sit during the day. So, I needed comfy shoes. They were not dress code, as they were not black. Okay, well, that's fine, I switched to black shoes, occasionally forgetting whenever she had a day off. Then, she committed a grievous sin, she attacked my belt. Belts were required by dress code, and they were required to be black belts. My belt was a black belt with Deadpool logos all around it because I'm a diehard Marvel fan. Emily, I'm giving you a warning about that belt, dress code says you need to wear a black belt to work. Me, it is a black belt, it's just got a logo around it. Emily, well, it needs to be all black. Me, nowhere in the dress code does it say that, it technically says it's up to the GM's decision. Besides, what about coworkers 1 to 5, who all wear patterned belts? Emily, this is my decision, and I say you need a black belt. So, of course, I go ask every other manager in the store. Not a single one of them cares, especially because we live in an extremely liberal city where personal expression tends to be taken to extremes. I finally ask the GM, he's shocked that he has to answer such an asinine and pointless question and indicates that he doesn't care. I helpfully mention this to Emily, to which she responds dash. Emily, well, I spoke to GM, and while he doesn't care personally, he said he'd leave the decision up to me, unless you want to go to corporate about it. Well, she knows that corporate is a sluggish and useless entity, so she leaves me there smugly glowing over my perceived defeat. I do believe you've all waited long enough for my malicious compliance. So, while corporate is a slow and useless entity, parts of it are actually surprisingly useful. As it just so happened, our store had been selected as the model store for the upcoming Black Friday holiday. Weeks of planning and reorganizing and laying out all got crammed into one stress-filled week, as corporate was going to visit. Now, I cannot even begin imagining giving a crap who the vice president of whatever giant company I'm working for is. There are so many layers between me and them that there isn't any situation in which I could imagine myself caring about this person who gets paid to sit on their ass while plebs like me do all the work. Unless you're someone who believes that their entire future lays in that company. Unless you're someone with that weird obsessive ambition to move into management in retail as a life goal. Unless you're someone like Emily. The fateful day comes and everything is going just as scheduled. I'm wearing my Deadpool belt that I've already been written up for 3 times, watching as this supposedly very important person rolls into the building. Immediately he's swarmed by every worker with an even mildly brown nose. Now, before this, I had been getting death glares from Emily like crazy. She knows I'm up to something, and has already promised to write me up again, once the vice president has left. Midway through their lap around the store, they're right in front of my section. That's when I take Emily's advice to heart. I walk up to the crowd of managers, elbow my way through to the vice president, and ask dash. Me, hey Mr. VP, do you mind if I ask you a brief question? Now, keep in mind, this man is looking at me as if a rat or other such vermin, pleb, has attempted to communicate with him. This is not someone who can really remember the last time he's been addressed by a commoner such as myself. VP, go ahead. Me, so lately, I've had some disagreements with Emily, I point at her, about the dress code with the belt. Dress code says to wear black belts, but doesn't specify entirely black belts. Being, as my belt is primarily black, and adds a little personality to my uniform, I believe it to be fine for me to wear. But despite agreement from all the other managers here, Emily insists on writing me up for wearing it. What's your opinion on the matter? The VP glares at me and Emily. VP, I don't care, seems fine to me. Me, thank you. I leave the group. Emily's face is red enough that my colorblind ass can see it, and the other managers sigh and forge on with the tour. Yes, I got a talking to by the GM, but at that point he couldn't afford to lose anyone pre-Black Friday, and the issue got forgotten after the insanity of the holiday. From that point on I was allowed to wear my belt. Steal my medication, I make you serially regret it. So when I was 15 I was diagnosed with bipolar schizophrenia. Now despite what TV shows and movie portray it, not all schizophrenia are in serial killers. If you can keep your medication in balance you can live a perfect normal life. From the age of 15 to 20 was rather hard as we tried to find the right balance and medication for me. But it'd been 11 years since I was first diagnosed and has been 6 years since I have any really bad symptoms. There has been a few minor issues when my meds would go out of balance. But nothing too extreme. Anyway, this happened 3 years ago. I had just moved into a new apartment with 2 new roommates. We will call them Zach and Rachel. Yes, those are their real name cause fuck them. Anyways, due to my illness I take multiple medication. An antipsychotic, antidepressants, and an anti-anxiety medication to name a few. These are all rather strong medication. So when I moved in and got settled in I started notice some of my meds start going missing. I have my pills counted out and ready. So I know exactly how many I have. I immediately suspect my roommates as they were the only one with access to my room. I also knew for a fact they took other medications to get high. They were pretty open about it. But I had no proof. And didn't want to risk pissing them off as I had to live with them. So I looked past it hoping it was a one-time thing. But it wasn't. After a few days of this I lost it and confronted them. They denied it and of course I had no proof. I even got a lock for my room. But somehow they still managed to get in. So here where the revenage starts. So due to all my medication I get constipated a lot. So I have a very stronger laxative I take when this happens. They are tiny pinkish pills. If you don't know about medication you could easily mistake these for something else. One morning before heading to work I took my antipsychotic pill bottles and switched out the pills for my laxatives. And then I left. When I came home that evening, both my roommates were in the washrooms. I asked Rachel what was wrong. She made up some bullshit food poisoning excuse. They spent the whole night in and out of the bathrooms. My medication disappears after that night. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.